Anna had been living in her car for 3 weeks, each day blending into the next in a haze of despair and fatigue. The once vibrant 28-year-old teacher now found herself trapped in a spiral of depression, her world having shrunk to the confines of her weathered sedan. She had parked in a quiet corner of a suburban shopping center, hoping to avoid attention from passersby and local authorities. As she stared at her reflection in the rearview mirror, Anna barely recognized the gaunt face and hollow eyes that gazed back at her. Her long, unkempt hair hung limply around her shoulders, a stark contrast to the polished appearance she had maintained in her previous life. Memories of her cozy apartment and stable teaching job felt like scenes from someone else's life, growing more distant with each passing day. The weight of her current reality pressed down on her, making even the simplest tasks feel insurmountable. Anna's stomach growled, a harsh reminder of the meager supplies she had left. She reached into her pocket, fingers closing around the few remaining coins. The decision to spend her last bit of money on a warm cup of coffee was not just about satisfying hunger. It was a small act of defiance against the crushing hopelessness that threatened to consume her. Anna stepped out of her car, her legs stiff from hours of inactivity. The crisp autumn air bit at her skin through her thin jacket. As she made her way towards the small cafe at the edge of the parking lot, a family walked by, their laughter echoing in the quiet morning. The sight of their happiness, so stark against her own misery, caused a lump to form in her throat. Tears welled up in her eyes, and she quickly turned away, not wanting to draw attention to herself. For a brief moment as she watched the family disappear around the corner, Anna contemplated giving up. The thought of ending her struggle flashed through her mind, tempting in its promise of relief. But something deep within her recoiled at the idea. A stubborn spark of resilience buried beneath layers of despair refused to be extinguished. Wiping her eyes with the back of her hand, Anna continued her walk to the cafe. The aroma of freshly brewed coffee wafted through the air, momentarily lifting her spirits. As she approached the counter, she counted out her coins carefully, praying it would be enough for a small cup. The barista, a young man with kind eyes, noticed her hesitation. He had seen Anna before, always ordering the cheapest item on the menu. Without a word, he prepared a medium-sized coffee and added a day-old pastry to the bag. When Anna tried to protest, he simply shook his head and smiled, waving away her concerns. Hi, Mrs. Touching Stories here. Enjoying the story? Subscribe now, like and comment to catch all the upcoming emotions. This small act of kindness, unexpected and unasked for, nearly broke Anna's carefully maintained composure. She mumbled a thank you, her voice thick with emotion, and hurried out of the cafe. Back in the safety of her car, she sipped the warm coffee slowly, savoring each drop. The pastry, slightly stale but still delicious, was the first real food she had eaten in days. As she ate, Anna's mind drifted to her past. She remembered the excitement of landing her first teaching job, the pride she had felt decorating her small but cozy apartment. She thought of her students, wondering how they were doing without her. The memories brought both comfort and pain, reminding her of how far she had fallen. The day wore on, and Anna remained in her car, alternating between fitful naps and staring blankly at the world outside. She watched as people went about their lives, entering and leaving the shopping center, carrying on with a normalcy that now seemed foreign to her. Each person that passed by was a reminder of the life she had lost, the connections she no longer had. As evening approached, Anna faced the familiar challenge of finding a safe place to spend the night. She had been rotating between different parking lots, never staying in one place too long to avoid drawing attention. Tonight, she decided to risk staying where she was, too exhausted to search for a new location. Settling into the reclined driver's seat, Anna pulled her thin blanket around her shoulders. The temperature was dropping, and she knew it would be another long, cold night. As she drifted off into an uneasy sleep, her last conscious thought was a mixture of dread for the coming day and a faint, almost imperceptible hope that tomorrow might bring a change. The following morning, Anna woke up with a stiff neck and an empty stomach. She had exhausted her meager food supplies the previous day, and the gnawing hunger was becoming unbearable. Reluctantly, she decided to venture into the neighborhood grocery store. hoping to find something affordable with the few coins she had left. As Anna pushed open the door of the small, weathered store, a bell chimed softly above her head. The interior was dimly lit and cluttered, with shelves crammed full of various goods. The air was thick with the mingled scents of spices, cleaning products, and aged wood. Behind the counter stood an elderly man, his wrinkled face set in a stern expression as he methodically restocked a display of cigarettes. This was Mr. Jones, the store's proprietor. His calloused hands and stooped posture spoke of a lifetime of hard work. Despite his gruff appearance, there was a hint of sadness in his eyes, a loneliness that had settled in after years of widowhood. He glanced up as Anna entered, his gaze sharp and assessing. Anna kept her head down, self-consciously aware of her disheveled appearance. She wandered through the narrow aisles, carefully examining prices and calculating what she could afford. The simple act of shopping, once routine, now felt like navigating a minefield of potential humiliation. As she approached the counter with a small loaf of day-old bread, Anna's hands trembled slightly. She placed the bread on the counter, avoiding eye contact with Mr. Jones. The old man rang up the purchase, his movements deliberate and unhurried. As Anna fumbled with her coins, Mr. Jones's eyes narrowed, taking in her worn clothes and the dark circles under her eyes. Without a word, he reached beneath the counter and produced a wrapped sandwich and a thermos of coffee. He placed them next to the bread, his weathered hand resting on top for a moment. Anna looked up, startled by the unexpected addition. She opened her mouth to protest, but Mr. Jones shook his head firmly. "Take it," he said, his voice gruff but not unkind. "No charge." Anna hesitated, torn between desperate hunger and the fear of accepting charity. Her pride warred with her need, and for a moment she considered fleeing the store empty-handed. But the aroma of fresh coffee was intoxicating, and her resolve crumbled. With trembling hands, Anna accepted the offerings. Tears pricked at her eyes, and she blinked rapidly to hold them back. She mumbled a quiet thank you, her voice thick with emotion. Mr. Jones watched her, his expression inscrutable. As Anna turned to leave, he spoke again, his words halting as if unused to conversation. "I could use some help around the store," he said, "just for a few hours each day, if you are interested." Anna froze, her hand on the door handle. She turned back slowly, disbelief warring with a tiny spark of hope in her chest. Mr. Jones's offer hung in the air between them, fragile and unexpected. For a long moment, neither spoke. Anna's mind raced, weighing the risks of trusting this stranger against the desperate reality of her situation. Mr. Jones waited patiently, his face impassive, but his eyes betraying a hint of his own internal struggle, the fear of reaching out, of potentially being rejected or disappointed. Finally, Anna nodded, unable to form words around the lump in her throat. Mr. Jones's shoulders relaxed almost imperceptibly, and he gestured towards a small table in the corner of the store. "Sit," he said. "Eat. We will talk after." As Anna settled at the table, unwrapping the sandwich with shaking hands, she felt as if she had stepped into another world. The weight of her recent struggles still pressed heavily upon her, but for the first time in weeks, a tiny glimmer of possibility had appeared on her horizon. Mr. Jones returned to his work, giving Anna space to eat in peace. The quiet of the store was broken only by the soft ticking of an old clock and the occasional rustle as Mr. Jones moved about, straightening shelves and checking inventory. As she ate, Anna's mind whirled with questions and uncertainties. She did not know what the future held, or if this unexpected kindness would lead to anything lasting. But for now, in this moment, she allowed herself to savor the simple pleasure of a warm meal and the faint stirring of hope in her chest. The following morning, Anna arrived at the small grocery store, her heart pounding with a mixture of anxiety and cautious hope. She had spent the night in her car as usual, but for the first time in weeks, she had woken up with a sense of purpose. As she pushed open the door, the familiar chime of the bell announced her arrival. Mr. Jones was already there, his weathered hands busy arranging produce in a worn wooden crate. He nodded curtly at Anna, gesturing towards an apron hanging on a hook near the counter. Without a word, Anna put it on, its faded fabric a testament to years of use. The first few hours were a whirlwind of activity. Mr. Jones's instructions were brief and gruff, leaving Anna to figure out many things on her own. She struggled with the ancient cash register, its keys sticking and requiring a firm touch. The organization of the store seemed haphazard at best, and Anna found herself constantly searching for items customers requested. As the morning wore on, Anna's confidence began to grow. Her natural intelligence and attention to detail, honed through years of teaching, started to shine through. She began to anticipate the needs of regular customers, remembering their preferences and engaging in small talk. The simple human interactions, which she had been deprived of for so long, felt both exhilarating and overwhelming. However, not all customers were easy to please. An elderly woman berated Anna for several minutes over the price of milk, her shrill voice echoing through the small store. A harried mother with 3 unruly children left a trail of knocked-over displays in her wake. Each challenging encounter tested Anna's patience and resolve, but she persevered, drawing on reserves of strength she had not known she possessed. As the day progressed, Anna began to notice small inefficiencies in the store's layout and operation. Her teacher's mind, accustomed to organizing and optimizing, started to formulate ideas for improvements. She rearranged a display of canned goods, grouping similar items together for easier access. The change was small, but she noticed customers finding items more quickly. In a quiet moment between customers, Mr. Jones approached Anna. His face was impassive, but there was a hint of approval in his eyes as he surveyed her work. He began to speak, his voice low and gravelly, about the history of the store. It had been in his family for generations, he explained, and his late wife had been instrumental in keeping it running through difficult times. As Mr. Jones spoke of his wife, his gruff exterior softened slightly. He described her warmth, her ability to connect with customers, and the void her passing had left in his life. Anna listened intently, recognizing the pain of loss and loneliness in his words, emotions she had become all too familiar with in recent months. Towards the end of the day, a young boy entered the store, his eyes wide as he scanned the shelves. Anna approached him, asking if he needed help. The boy explained that he wanted to buy a gift for his mother but didn't have much money. With gentle guidance, Anna helped him select a small potted plant and a bar of fragrant soap, items that fit his budget but still felt special. As she wrapped the gifts, Anna felt a familiar warmth in her chest, reminiscent of the satisfaction she had experienced as a teacher. The joy on the boy's face as he left the store, with his carefully chosen presents, reminded her of the impact small acts of kindness could have. That evening, as Anna prepared to leave, Mr. Jones handed her a small envelope containing her day's wages. The amount was modest, but to Anna, it represented far more than money. It was a lifeline, a chance to regain her footing in a world that had seemed so hostile just days before. As she walked to her car, Anna's mind was buzzing with ideas for the store. She envisioned a more organized layout, an updated inventory system, perhaps even a small reading corner for children. These thoughts, focused on the future rather than dwelling on her past struggles, carried her through the night. Anna still slept in her car, but the comfort of a real bed still beyond her reach. But as she drifted off to sleep that night, her dreams were filled with possibilities rather than despair. The road ahead was still long and uncertain, but for the first time in months, Anna felt she had taken a step in the right direction. As weeks passed, Anna found herself settling into a routine at the small grocery store. Hi, Mrs. Touching Stories here. Enjoying the story? Subscribe now, like and comment to catch all the upcoming emotions. The initial awkwardness between her and Mr. Jones had gradually given way to a comfortable working relationship. Anna's natural warmth and intelligence began to shine through more consistently, and she found herself engaging more freely with the regular customers. One particularly busy afternoon, Anna expertly handled a rush of customers while Mr. Jones was out on a supply run. Her efficiency and friendly demeanor did not go unnoticed. Mrs. Oliveira, a longtime patron of the store, paused before leaving to express her appreciation for Anna's help. The genuine gratitude in the elderly woman's eyes stirred something in Anna, a feeling of being truly valued that she had not experienced in months. As closing time approached, Mr. Jones surprised Anna by inviting her to share a simple dinner with him in the small back room of the store. The gesture, though gruff in delivery, touched Anna deeply. Over bowls of hearty soup and crusty bread, the barriers between them began to lower. Mr. Jones spoke of his late wife, Maria, and the dreams they had shared for the store. His words, tinged with both fondness and sorrow, painted a picture of a vibrant woman who had been the heart of the community. Encouraged by Mr. Jones's openness, Anna found herself sharing fragments of her own story. She spoke of her passion for teaching, the joy she had found in helping young minds grow. However, she carefully omitted the details of her current living situation, the shame of her circumstances still too raw to reveal. As their conversation deepened, Anna began to see Mr. Jones in a new light. Behind his gruff exterior lay a man who had known love and loss, whose seemingly brusque manner masked a deep care for his community. Without either of them fully realizing it, Mr. Jones had begun to fill a paternal role in Anna's life, providing not just employment, but a sense of stability and belonging she had been desperately missing. The following days saw Anna becoming more integrated into the fabric of the neighborhood. Regular customers began to seek her out, not just for assistance with their shopping, but for brief conversations and shared smiles. She learned their names, their preferences, the small details that made each of them unique. Mr. Silva, the retired postman with a penchant for crossword puzzles. Young Maria, always searching for ingredients for her latest baking experiment. The twins, Pedro and Paolo, who would rush in after school for their daily treat. As Anna's confidence grew, so did her ideas for improving the store. She began to suggest small changes, reorganizing shelves for better flow, introducing a simple loyalty card system, creating attractive window displays. While Mr. Jones was initially resistant to change, he could not deny the positive impact of Anna's innovations. Customers commented on the store's fresher feel, and sales began to show a modest but steady increase. However, not all of Anna's suggestions were met with enthusiasm. When she proposed a more significant renovation of the store's layout, tension arose between her and Mr. Jones. His attachment to the store's traditional setup clashed with Anna's vision for modernization. Their disagreement, though respectful, left both feeling unsettled, a reminder of the delicate balance of their evolving relationship. One quiet evening, as Anna was restocking shelves, she overheard a conversation between two customers. An elderly man was expressing frustration at his inability to read the labels on some products. His companion, clearly embarrassed, was quietly helping him identify the items he needed. The exchange stirred something in Anna, reminding her of her days as a teacher and the fulfillment she had found in helping others learn. That night, as Anna prepared for another uncomfortable sleep in her car, an idea began to form in her mind. She envisioned using the store's back room in the evenings to offer basic literacy classes to adults in the community. It would be a small start, but it could make a significant difference in people's lives. As she drifted off to sleep, Anna felt a mix of excitement and apprehension. She knew proposing such a project to Mr. Jones would be challenging, given his resistance to change. Yet, for the first time in months, she felt a sense of purpose beyond mere survival. The seed of an idea had been planted, and with it, the hope of not just rebuilding her own life, but of making a meaningful impact on the community that had begun to embrace her. The morning Anna decided to propose her literacy project to Mr. Jones, she had woken up with a mixture of determination and trepidation. She had spent several nights refining her idea, drawing up basic lesson plans, and anticipating potential objections. As she entered the store, the familiar bell chime seemed to echo her nervous energy. Mr. Jones's initial reaction to Anna's proposal was one of skepticism. His brow furrowed as she explained her vision of using the store's back room for evening classes. He questioned the practicality, the potential disruption to the store's operation, and whether there would even be interest in such a program. Anna, drawing on her experience as a teacher, calmly addressed each concern, her passion for the project evident in her voice. After a long moment of silence, Mr. Jones grudgingly agreed to a trial period. His conditions were clear. The project could not interfere with the store's regular business, and Anna would be solely responsible for its organization and execution. She accepted these terms with gratitude, her mind already racing with plans. The next few weeks were a whirlwind of activity for Anna. By day, she continued her work in the store, and by night, she prepared for the literacy classes. She created flyers, spoke with customers about the program, and transformed the cluttered back room into a makeshift classroom. Her enthusiasm was infectious, but the response from the community was initially lukewarm. Many expressed embarrassment at the idea of admitting their literacy struggles, while others were simply too busy or tired after long workdays. Anna's first class was a humble beginning. Only 3 students showed up. Clara, an elderly woman who had always relied on her late husband for reading, Juan, a young man who had dropped out of school to support his family, and Miguel, a middle-aged factory worker who wanted to be able to read bedtime stories to his grandchildren. Despite the small turnout, Anna poured her heart into the lesson, her old teaching skills quickly resurfacing. As the weeks progressed, word of the classes began to spread. The number of students slowly grew, each with their own story and motivation. Anna found herself deeply moved by their determination and the small victories they achieved. The night Clara shakily wrote her own name for the first time, tears of joy streaming down her wrinkled cheeks, Anna felt a sense of fulfillment she had not experienced since losing her teaching job. However, the growing success of the literacy project brought its own challenges. Balancing her work in the store with the increasing demands of the classes began to take its toll on Anna. Dark circles appeared under her eyes, and her usual energy began to flag. Mr. Jones noticed her exhaustion but said nothing, his expression unreadable as he watched her juggle her responsibilities. One evening, as Anna was setting up for class, she was stunned to see Mr. Jones enter the room. Without a word, he took a seat among the other students, his weathered hands clasping a pencil awkwardly. Anna's surprise turned to understanding as she realized that Mr. Jones, despite his years of running the store, had his own struggles with reading and writing. His presence in the class was both a show of support for her efforts and a brave step in his own personal growth. As the literacy project gained momentum, it began to attract attention beyond the immediate neighborhood. A local newspaper ran a small feature on the classes, praising the initiative. This publicity brought both new students and offers of support from community members. A retired school teacher volunteered to assist Anna, and a nearby bookstore offered to donate materials. The growing success of the project forced Anna to confront a truth she had been avoiding. She knew that to fully commit to this work and to be honest with those who had come to trust her, she needed to address her living situation. One quiet evening, after the store had closed and the last literacy student had left, Anna finally revealed to Mr. Jones that she had been living in her car. The confession came haltingly, tears threatening to spill, as Anna recounted the series of misfortunes that had led to her current circumstances. Mr. Jones listened in silence, his usual gruff demeanor softened by concern and a dawning understanding of the young woman who had brought such change to his store and community. As Anna's words trailed off, the small back room of the grocery store fell into a heavy silence. The future hung uncertain between them, but in that moment of vulnerability and truth, the seeds of change that Anna had planted seemed to take deeper root, promising growth not just for her students, but for herself and Mr. Jones as well. The morning began like any other, with Anna arriving at the store, her mind already racing with plans for the day's tasks and the evening's literacy class. However, as she pushed open the door, the tension in the air was palpable. Mr. Jones sat at the counter, his face etched with worry, a stack of papers spread before him. With hesitation, Mr. Jones revealed the dire financial situation of the store. Years of declining sales, coupled with rising costs and competition from larger supermarkets, had finally caught up with them. The bank was threatening foreclosure, and without a significant influx of cash, the store would be forced to close within months. The news hit Anna like a physical blow. This store had become more than just a job. It was her lifeline, her connection to the community, and the foundation of her newfound purpose. Hi, Mrs. Touching Stories here. Enjoying the story? Subscribe now, like and comment to catch all the upcoming emotions. The thought of losing it all sent her reeling, bringing back painful memories of her own recent losses. As word of the store's troubles spread through the neighborhood, Anna found herself facing not only the external crisis, but also an internal one. The stress of the situation began to chip away at the confidence she had slowly rebuilt. Old doubts and insecurities resurfaced, whispering that she was not capable of overcoming this challenge, that she was destined to lose everything once again. One particularly difficult evening, after a day of declining sales and worried customers, Anna reached her breaking point. In the privacy of the store's back room, surrounded by the materials for her literacy classes, she finally allowed herself to crumble. Years of pent-up emotion poured out in heaving sobs, her body shaking with the force of her grief and fear. It was in this vulnerable state that Mr. Jones found her. For a moment, he stood frozen in the doorway, unaccustomed to such raw emotion. Then, in a gesture that surprised them both, he awkwardly put his arm around Anna's shoulders. His gruff exterior melted away as he spoke softly of his own fears and regrets, revealing a depth of emotion he had long kept hidden. This moment of shared vulnerability marked a turning point in their relationship. As Anna's tears subsided, a new determination took hold. She and Mr. Jones began to brainstorm ideas to save the store, their different perspectives and experiences combining to spark creative solutions. Anna suggested leveraging the literacy program to attract more customers, proposing to expand it into a broader community education initiative. Mr. Jones, drawing on his years of experience, focused on streamlining operations and negotiating better terms with suppliers. Together, they worked late into the night, poring over financial statements and drafting plans. As news of their efforts spread, the community began to rally around the store. Regular customers made a point of shopping there more frequently, even if it meant paying slightly higher prices than at the big supermarkets. Some of Anna's literacy students volunteered their time to help with various tasks around the store. The turning point came when Clara, one of Anna's first literacy students, suggested organizing a community fundraiser. The idea quickly gained traction, with various members of the neighborhood offering to contribute their skills and resources. A local band agreed to perform, home cooks promised to bring their specialties, and children planned to create handmade decorations. The day of the fundraiser dawned bright and clear. Anna arrived at the store early, her stomach knotted with nervous anticipation. As she and Mr. Jones began setting up, they were overwhelmed by the number of people who showed up to help. The street in front of the store was transformed into a vibrant festival, filled with music, food, and laughter. Throughout the day, Anna found herself moved to tears multiple times as she witnessed the outpouring of support from the community. People she had never met came to contribute, having heard about the store's importance from friends or family. Her literacy students proudly showcased their newfound skills, reading aloud stories they had written about what the store and the classes meant to them. As the sun began to set, Mr. Jones pulled Anna aside. His eyes shone with unshed tears as he revealed the total amount raised, enough to pay off the most pressing debts and buy them time to implement their new business strategies. But more than the money, he said, it was the reaffirmation of the store's place in the community that gave him hope for the future. The success of the fundraiser marked a new chapter for the store and for Anna. While challenges still lay ahead, the crisis had strengthened the bonds between them and the community. As Anna looked around at the faces of those who had come together to help, she felt a sense of belonging she had thought lost forever. That night, as she prepared to leave, Mr. Jones stopped her with a gruff clearing of his throat. In his hands was a small key. Without fanfare, he explained that it belonged to the small apartment above the store, an apartment that had stood empty since his wife's passing. His offer for Anna to move in was delivered with his usual brusqueness, but the emotion behind it was clear. As Anna climbed the stairs to her new home, exhausted but filled with a profound sense of gratitude, she realized that the unexpected storm had not destroyed what she had built. It had only made it stronger. In the months following the successful fundraiser, Anna and Mr. Jones had worked tirelessly to implement their vision of transforming the old grocery store into a vibrant community center. The process had been far from smooth, with numerous bureaucratic hurdles and logistical challenges testing their resolve at every turn. Anna had emerged as a natural leader during this time, her passion and determination inspiring others to join their cause. She had spent countless hours navigating the complex web of local regulations, meeting with city officials, and rallying community support. Her teaching background proved invaluable as she developed a comprehensive plan for educational programs that would form the heart of the new center. Mr. Jones, for his part, had undergone a remarkable transformation. The gruff, set-in-his-ways shopkeeper had gradually given way to a man energized by the possibilities of change. He had thrown himself into the renovation work, his intimate knowledge of the building proving crucial as they repurposed spaces and modernized facilities. More surprisingly, he had become an enthusiastic advocate for the center, his deep connections in the community opening doors that might otherwise have remained closed. The community itself had become a driving force in the project. Volunteers had poured in, offering their skills and time. Local businesses had donated materials and services. Even those who had initially been skeptical had been won over by the infectious enthusiasm that seemed to radiate from the old store. However, the path to realizing their dream had not been without its challenges. The bureaucratic process of rezoning the property and obtaining the necessary permits had been a nightmare of red tape and delays. There had been moments when it seemed that their vision would be crushed under the weight of official indifference or outright opposition. One particularly disheartening setback had come when their application for a crucial grant had been initially rejected. Anna had spent days poring over the rejection letter, refining their proposal, and gathering additional support. Her persistence had paid off when, after a personal appeal to the grant committee, their application had been reconsidered and approved. As the day of the community center's grand opening approached, Anna found herself facing a new challenge: the prospect of speaking publicly about her journey. The local media had taken an interest in the story, and she had been asked to give a speech at the opening ceremony. The thought of sharing her personal struggles with a wider audience filled her with dread, bringing back painful memories of the shame and isolation she had experienced. The night before the opening, Anna had tossed and turned in her small apartment above the store, her mind racing with all that could go wrong. It was only in the early hours of the morning that she had found a sense of calm, reminding herself of how far she had come and the lives that had already been changed by their work. The day of the inauguration dawned bright and clear. As Anna stood before the gathered crowd, her hands trembling slightly as she gripped the podium, she looked out at the sea of familiar faces. She saw Clara, beaming with pride, and João, standing tall with newfound confidence. She saw the twins, Pedro and Paulo, now enthusiastic participants in the center's after-school programs. And there was Mr. Jones, his eyes glistening with unshed tears. Anna's voice had wavered as she began her speech, but it grew stronger as she shared her story of loss, struggle, and ultimately rebirth. She spoke of the power of community and the transformative nature of education and compassion. As she concluded, the applause that erupted was thunderous, a cathartic release of shared emotion and collective achievement. Mr. Jones's speech that followed had been brief but deeply moving. He had spoken of second chances and the joy of finding new purpose in life. His words, simple yet profound, had left many in the audience wiping away tears. The emotional crescendo of the ceremony had come when Miguel, one of Anna's first literacy students, had taken the stage. With careful concentration, he had read a poem he had written, expressing his gratitude for the opportunities the center had provided. His words, halting but heartfelt, had encapsulated the spirit of what they had all worked so hard to achieve. As the day progressed, Anna had found herself overwhelmed by the outpouring of support and enthusiasm. The center buzzed with activity as people explored the new facilities, signed up for classes, and engaged in lively discussions about future programs. It was clear that they had created something that would have a lasting impact on the community. Amidst the celebration, Anna had been approached by a representative from a national education foundation. Impressed by what they had accomplished, the foundation was interested in using their model to establish similar centers in other underserved communities. The prospect of expanding their work, of touching even more lives, filled Anna with a mixture of excitement and trepidation. As the sun began to set on that momentous day, Anna found a quiet moment to stand alone in what had once been the store's back room. The space, now transformed into a bright, welcoming classroom, bore little resemblance to the cluttered storage area where she had first dreamed of teaching again. Running her hand along a freshly painted wall, she allowed herself to feel the full weight of all that had transpired. The journey had been long and often painful, but standing there, surrounded by the tangible results of their collective efforts, Anna felt a profound sense of purpose. Hi, Mrs. Touching Stories here. Enjoying the story? Subscribe now, like, and comment to catch all the upcoming emotions. The old grocery store had indeed been reborn, and with it, Anna herself had undergone a transformation. As she turned to rejoin the ongoing celebration, she carried with her the knowledge that this was not an ending, but rather the beginning of a new chapter filled with possibilities. 1 year had passed since Anna first stepped into Mr. Jones's small grocery store, desperate and alone. As she stood on the rooftop of the now thriving community center, watching the sunset paint the sky in vibrant hues, she marveled at the journey that had brought her to this moment. The transformation in Anna was evident to all who knew her. Gone was the timid, broken woman who had once lived in her car. In her place stood a confident, purposeful leader who had become the heart of the community. Her eyes, once dulled by despair, now sparkled with enthusiasm and determination. She carried herself with a quiet strength, born of the challenges she had overcome and the lives she had touched. Mr. Jones, too, had undergone a remarkable change. The gruff, isolated shopkeeper had blossomed into a beloved community elder. His weathered face, once set in a perpetual frown, now frequently broke into warm smiles as he interacted with the center's visitors. He had found, in the bustling activity of the community center and in Anna's friendship, a sense of family he had thought lost forever. As Anna descended from the rooftop, she passed by the classrooms where various programs were in session. Through the windows, she caught glimpses of the lives that had been changed over the past year. There was Clara, now confidently leading a knitting circle, her newfound literacy skills allowing her to read patterns and share her knowledge. Yoan, the young man who had once struggled to find direction, was tutoring younger students in math, his own educational journey having inspired him to give back. The center had become a beacon of hope and transformation for the entire neighborhood. Crime rates had dropped, school attendance had improved, and a sense of pride and unity had taken root in the community. The success of their initiative had not gone unnoticed, attracting attention from social organizations and government agencies alike. It was this attention that had led to Anna's current dilemma. She had received an offer to head a new social development project in a neighboring city, a role that would allow her to impact even more lives on a larger scale. The opportunity was tempting, promising greater resources and a chance to replicate their success elsewhere. However, the thought of leaving the community that had become her home filled her with conflicting emotions. The community, having caught wind of the potential offer, had reacted with a mixture of pride and apprehension. They were proud of Anna's accomplishments and the recognition she was receiving, but the prospect of losing her leadership left many feeling uncertain about the future. As Anna grappled with her decision, she found herself drawn to a corner of the center's parking lot where her old car stood. What had once been her shelter in times of desperation had been transformed into a small mobile library filled with books and educational materials. Running her hand along the vehicle's repainted exterior, Anna was struck by how far she had come and how much this community had given her. The following evening, the community center hosted a graduation ceremony for the first cohort of adult literacy students. The small auditorium was packed with family members, volunteers, and supporters. As each graduate walked across the stage to receive their certificate, Anna felt a swell of emotion, remembering the struggles and triumphs of each individual journey. The ceremony culminated in a surprise presentation by the graduates. They had collectively written and illustrated a children's book telling the story of their community's transformation. As they read the book aloud, taking turns to showcase their new skills, there wasn't a dry eye in the room. The book, they announced, would be the first addition to the mobile library, a testament to the power of education and community. In that moment, surrounded by the tangible results of their collective efforts, Anna found clarity in her decision. She realized that her true calling lay not in expanding to new territories, but in deepening the impact they had already begun to make. The roots she had put down in this community were too strong, too vital to be uprooted. The next morning, Anna met with city officials to discuss her vision for the future. Instead of leaving, she accepted a position as the coordinator of social projects for the entire municipality. This role would allow her to expand their successful model to other neighborhoods while remaining rooted in the community that had given her a second chance. As news of her decision spread, a palpable sense of relief and joy rippled through the community. Mr. Jones, upon hearing the news, simply nodded and squeezed Anna's hand, his eyes conveying all that words could not. In the weeks that followed, Anna and Mr. Jones could often be found huddled over plans and documents, mapping out the future expansion of the community center. Their discussions were filled with ambitious ideas and practical considerations, each bringing their unique perspective to the table. As they worked, the sounds of the bustling community center surrounded them. The laughter of children in after-school programs, the murmur of adult education classes, the enthusiastic discussions of community meetings. These sounds, once foreign and intimidating to Anna, had become the melody of her life, a constant reminder of the power of resilience, community, and hope. The journey ahead was sure to bring new challenges and obstacles, but Anna faced the future with confidence and determination. She had found her purpose, her home, and her family in this vibrant community. As she looked out at the neighborhood she had helped transform, Anna knew that this was just the beginning of a story that would continue to unfold, touching lives and creating ripples of change for years to come.